Max, we're overdue this chat. It's fantastic to get you on. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here and so many memories, and I appreciate a lot you having me.
Well, we're going to talk about lots of memories and a connection to Australia. Can I start with early life for you? I have literally in the last few months returned from a family holiday in Como. We went to Chernobyl there, and I know that you grew up sort of in that area somewhere there, not all that far from Monza, beautiful part of the world. Tell me about early life for Max Papis and how the connection to motorsport came about for you.
First of all, I'm super excited you went. I was actually born about 10 minutes from Chernobyl.
Oh,
In
wow.
a small village near, right on the Swiss border.
Okay.
And the passion from the sport came in a very funky way. My dad loved racing, but never involved in racing. And we were born on the Swiss border, and most of the people there, they had fast cars because what they were doing back in the day, they were smuggling cigarettes and little things. Because in Switzerland, there was less taxes. And I remember my dad always having this Golf GTI and pretty fast cars, having this passion. So most of his friends were like a little, crazy, I guess. Fast cars to run away from the police when they were possibly smuggling something back to Switzerland, back to Italy. And how it ended up, it was that the engine tuner for all these supercars,
Yeah.
one of his son used to race go-kart.
Cuts. Yeah.
One day he took me to the local karting track, and that's where the passion started. And it was very, very special for me.
And it's a hub for karting in that sort of region, I guess, Max, isn't it? I mean, from memory, second in your very first race, you start crossing paths as a youngster with people like David Coulthard, Alan McNish, and so on.
Yeah, but let me tell you something that I think it's significant, and I don't think many people know. After the first experience with karting with this tuner that lived near my house, we moved, in about 20 miles from Como,
Uh-huh.
and in the next village from where we moved was this amazingly famous karting engine tuner that actually was Ayrton Senna mentor.
This is Diego
Um,
Morelli, is it not? Have I got that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, yeah, he
Mm.
was Diego. And Diego ended up becoming my mentor. He introduced me to Ayrton. Ayrton became my guidance, the person that, he was my reference. Every time he came to Monza testing with McLaren, he was always coming to my house, see me and my dad and Diego. The early part of my career, it everything happened, by chance. Many things lined up. Uh, Obviously, I kind of look back at the fact that I had a God gift. Things were coming. I was winning races, but at the same time, think about how many times in the world you have the next door guy that is this super famous engine tuner. Besides Ayrton, then Diego Mombelli ended up working with the guys of, Alonso, Garcia, Fisichella. He was really a genius, one of the
Yeah.
best engine tuner in the world. He ended up two MotoGP World Championship with Fausto Gresini
Seen
in a
it, yeah.
Garelli. And Ayrton took a liking to me, and he was really, all the way and before racing in Formula One was the person that actually paved my career. He made me talk to West Surrey Racing. He allowed me to go and run the Fuji Grand Prix with them. So I was very well guided, and I had a tremendous will to make things happen.
And I think that's the two parts of your story, Max, is that, you talked about being in, fortuitous moments with the people you met, but you also worked incredibly hard to make the most of those opportunities. And we'll come to more of that in this conversation. People will be intrigued about the Senna connection. Can I just explore that for a little moment, if you don't mind? I mean, You talk
Absolutely,
about
Greg.
you talk about him as though he was a little bit like a brother, a really positive influence. You were there for some significant moments for him too. I mean, fans listening to the pod will vividly remember, Max, the race in the rain at Monaco for him, and you were there, weren't you?
Absolutely. I called Diego Mombelli, and I told him I was gonna with Dad we were gonna go to Monaco. It's like 4 hour drive from home.
Drive. Yeah.
Took the Golf GTI of my dad, and I remember like yesterday. It was me, my brother, on the side of this guy that nobody really knew who he was. I remember Ayrton with his suit tagged on the bottom there around his Toleman, and I even bought a video camera, but I was too shy. I told my dad. My dad kept telling, "Oh, just ask a couple of things to Ayrton so we can give it back to Diego." And I wish I had that memory. But anyway, the long story short, Ayrton puts up this master drive. He finished second, and we had agreed with him to after the race to see each other at the paddock. And we were gonna drive him back to his apartment, and then we were gonna go home. And I remember vividly. We show up with our white Golf GTI in the paddock. This young kid comes in, Senna. Uh, my dad is there, open the door. I sit in the back. Ayrton gives me his helmet that he just raced with, and I sit in the back. And Dad and Ayrton, they're sitting on the front. And Ayrton says, I'm pissed. These French people, they stole it to me. And I remember Dad saying, to Ayrton, "Hey, I have a feeling that this might not be the only race you're gonna have a shot to win."
Win.
And we left it like that. And after that, so many special memories. He was just my friend. Every time he came over, he tried to help and guide me. So I realize now how fortunate I was, of having such an icon, but because I met him through this special person that was my mentor, Diego Mombelli, for me, it was just Ayrton.
Yeah, okay.
I remember spending time with him and his dad in Monza when Ayrton was testing the McLaren MP12, I believe, with a V10. And me and his dad just having some gelato and talking about stuff, and so it was very special. And I feel very fortunate to have met him, to have had the opportunity to have some guidance from him, and I maybe before the end of the conversation, I have one thing here of him. I don't know if you want me to
It's the
get it. Maybe
1990. It's the 1990 helmet, I'm told. Is this right? And it's very special.
Yeah.
Awesome. He's going to go while we're doing this podcast here and grab the helmet. So we'll try and show you a little bit of this in a social media clip as well. Here he is, all boxed up. That is beautiful, beautiful.
With Ayrton, he came to our house one day in 1990, and he just presented that. We got it, he signed it. It's here. I kept it. It's
in his iconic colors, the yellow, green, and black. Just
that's him. Like he wrote that for Massimiliano with French, con amicizia, Ayrton Senna, 300890.
Just tell people what that means in English. What does that mean in English? What has he written? What has he written there?
For Max, with friendship, Ayrton, Monza. And the chicane, because me and him, we were always going to watch the Monza. He always took me to turn one.
And to watch.
Me and him, when we wanted to go and see, and the car was out, he made me jump in the car. We went there and behind the barrier in turn one.
So awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm glad I was able to show you that. So,
thank you. Thank you.
Very fortunate, very, very fortunate to have had this opportunity, and I carry his legacy and his knowledge with me. Behind my helmet, there is a sticker. I don't know if it's here. Yeah. Behind every of my helmet, there is a sticker that since he passed away, it's a tribute to his helmet color.
Uh-huh.
and written for you, per te in Italian. And
Lovely.
I kept those little things behind my helmet since he passed away, and has been with me in all my successes. So
Brilliant.
yeah, in a little bit, his legacy is with me, and just being able to talk about what he did and how he helped me. I think I'm just very fortunate.
We're fortunate to have heard those stories. Thank you for sharing those. Can I come to a couple of other quick karting stories before we move on in your career? Firstly, you get to race against Michael Schumacher, Jos Verstappen. You've spoken about this on the Spinning Wheels podcast, I think, where you talked about your work ethic against those guys and what an asset that was for you. The way you worked so hard off track as well in your preparation in order to bring your best to the table when you were racing that sort of caliber of driver in karts.
I realized very early that talent would have not been enough if I would have not squeezed every ounces of the lemon that I had in my hand. And maybe through the example of Senna around me, watching guys like Michael Schumacher racing and see how focused he was, how committed he was, I just realized that if I wanted to make it at any level, I had to have at least that level of commitment. I guess that being surrounded in an era where you race karting against a guy like David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Jos Verstappen, if you can even see them, or if you can battle with them, it's pretty special because those guys were incredible. I always say that I realized later on that especially people like those geniuses like Schumacher or Jos, maybe they had 3-5% more God gift, pure speed that I had. And in order to try to keep up with them, I had to, dig deep in every resources I had. And when I felt that at my best day, with the best of my preparation, when they slipped a little bit, I could compete with them. And then at the best day of a gentleman like Michael Schumacher, with the same level of commitment that I had or more, and maybe those 3-4% extra talent, the guy was winning, and I was finishing fifth, sixth, but I was still being part of the hunt. So what I just realized was that I saw the level of commitment of some of these great people, and I learned that if I had to do something in life, I had to dig very deep. Because they were. And I did that in every aspect of my life, in everything I could, from off-track preparation. I was one of the first person that I had a trainer, and again, people think about it. He was a friend of mine. There was an athletic trainer. He was not nothing that you think about it nowadays with all this fancy stuff, but I was always a little bit ahead of the curve, in many, many things I did. And because I wanted to find an edge, and I wanted to be able to, the normal for me was never enough. Was never enough. Was it maybe because I didn't have that ultimate talent that some of this great genius had? I don't know. Was it just because this inner fire that I always had? Maybe it was a combination of the two. I know that it worked for me.
Definitely. I love the drive, Max, and that is reflected in MPI and what you do now, the precision around that, which we'll get to. In wrapping up a little bit of the karting, you clearly were good. because you come to Australia to race at Oran Park. You battle with someone who's been on my pod before in Russell Ingall. That was a good memory for you too, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Russell. I didn't know who he was. For me, it was just another guy that had to kick his butt. And I remember I wrecked him in the
Did you?
pre-final at the Castrol Grand Prix in Oran Park. And I wrecked him, and in retaliation, I believe that, yeah, actually, I remember exactly what happened. In the pre-final, I'm leading, blow up the engine. I have to start last in the final. I'm driving through the field. I arrived behind him. Boom, I boomed him. Went by. And then I go and race with him again in Hong Kong at the end of the year. And I see this maniac in the rain that just ran me over, put me in the barrier. And then he went and say, "Do you remember Oran Park?" Yeah, I remember. I like, it was super hot. I really like the watermelon. No. He said, "You don't remember." And that was my relationship with Russell. And we became friends after that, but it was like,
Cool.
my God, you have a long memory. I
Memory.
didn't even remember. Like he basically waited 6 months to give it
Never
back to me.
forgot. Never forgot.
In a different country, in Hong Kong Grand Prix, in November. These things happen in January, February. The Castrol Grand Prix in Oran Park was early in the season.
Love it.
And it was my first time in Australia. I loved it. I loved everything of your country, and amazing memories.
So in your late teens, you're immersed in karting. I think you even had a contract with Vega back then. It seemed like you were really happy, and that may have been your life. But where did the first car race experience kind of come about? Where were you for that, and how did that shift into gear?
Greg, we had no ambitions as family. My dad had no ambitions to go any further than karting because, my family had, some means, but not means to take me all the way forward. And so, like, we were just competing. I was happy. We were racing for PCR. I had a little contract. I was making money. And then something happened that I got an opportunity to test something that was very similar to a Formula Ford.
Okay.
In Monza. I jumped in the car. I was very competitive. I don't remember exactly what I did, but I remember I ran all the time top 2 or 3. I ran some local races at the short track in Monza. Mm-hmm. Where basically it's almost like an oval. Before going in the first chicane, you turn back, you run the parabolic, and they put 2 chicane on the front stretch.
Nice.
And there was this guy, the car had a 500cc engine. It was almost like a Formula Ford. That gave an opportunity later on to do a test in a Formula 3 car in Misano. And because my dad in that period, I remember him and one of his friends somehow put together something like $40,000-$50,000 to give a help to Alex Zanardi, in Formula 3.
Yeah.
Because Alex was a really good friend of our family. At the moment when Alex could give back, he invited me to do a test in the same car in Formula 3. And I did really well, and things started lining up. And in order to make it happen, I still remember, I have it at home. I picked up the yellow pages and I called, or actually faxed, every company within a couple of 100 miles where I lived that I thought they had something to do with racing or they could sponsor me. And out of all these thousands, I remember boxes like this of faxes, I was able to find 3 generous people that they supported my career, and They went all the way to start paying 60% of the Formula 3 budget. Then I won races, and there was no need to bring 100% of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
The team, made me race with 50% of the budget. Then the last year of the Formula 3, I raced basically bringing 10% of the budget. So I saved all the money that I had for sponsorship, and I reutilized them to race in Formula 2 the first year. So it was by no mean I spent more miles and kilometers sitting in the car going and visit people trying to find the money to make it happen than the miles I had in the car. But I had to do it. I did it, and I learned tremendous in my life about that. Tremendous.
Neil Crompton in commentary often talks about the University of Motor Racing and what it does, right? And that has been at a very young age for you, a great skill that permeates everything you do now. You have a reputation for longevity around relationships. I mean, that was so important to ultimately helping this car racing career, wasn't it?
I believe that you plant a seed,
mm-hmm.
and you reap the benefit of the seed you plant year after. I give you a humble and simple example. A right helmet, they've been helping me since I'm 16 years old. I've been with them all my life, for 40 years. Did I have offer to change? Yes. My loyalty towards people that have been helping me is been the utmost loyalty I could have. Same things for Alpine Star. Alpine Star, they've been guiding me. Gabriele, me and him, we designed one of the first racing shoes in '96 at Long Beach Grand Prix. And for me, loyalty is everything. And I like to pay people back in the same way that they helped me. And and I learned that early days, going around, spent miles in the car, trying to. I always try to give back more than what I collected, and that's my nature, and I apply that way modus operandi in everything I do in my career, my life, and. Seems to work quite okay.
It's so many valuable takeaways here, Max. As you're climbing, and in that era in Italy and Europe, I mean, there are some gun racing drivers all trying to make it to the top of wherever they're headed, right? Invariably, that must have meant rivalries for you too. Were there people that, we got to know the emotive Mad Max later on in your career, particularly in America, but early on when you were younger, were there rivals too that you were trying to beat to get to that next stage, that next phase?
Absolutely. Internally, I remember that there were. Point of reference for my Formula 3000 first year was David Coulthard.
Wow. He
was driving for Paul Stewart Racing, surrounded by great people, and being able to. He was always my point of reference, and but again, it's I could name, in karting, when I started, there were some of the most tremendous people out there. If I look back at the level of talent, I'm trying to recollect. Think about my first Formula 3000 year. Olivier Panis, Luca Badoer, David Coulthard. I can point other names people that they won races in F1, won races won Le Mans, created history. He was not a walk in the park. Even qualifying 15, 16 in F2 in F3000 was a big challenge, and finishing fourth in my first race at fourth, fifth, I don't know, whatever I finished in Donington. It was like I went like, "Oof, I'm pretty good."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it was, it was. When I look back, thank you for letting me reflect on that because yeah,
You should,
amazing.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, what you drew from that. I mean, the American part of your life represents the majority of your racing life in many respects. But I want to touch on Formula One before we get to the US. Firstly, the chance to drive an F1 car. If I'm right, in your CV, was it with Lotus? Who gave you the first ever drive? Where were you? What was that like? And what feeling did that leave you with?
Again, talking about planting a good seed and reaping the benefit. Alex was the race driver. Zanardi was the
Hmm.
race driver of Lotus. Uh, my dad helped him. We stayed in touch. We were always a very good friend. And after I won my first Formula 3000 race in Barcelona, Peter Collins asked Alex some names, and he gave my name. I still remember I went to Ketteringham Hall, and he made me sit. I had no idea what was happening there, but I learned that later. It was the same chair, that Colin Chapman had all his driver sitting in it. He made me wait for 30 minutes. I had an interview. Uh, they poured a seat in a car that was designed for Johnny Herbert, that is like 25 centimeters shorter than me.
Shorter.
Yeah. And I remember like yesterday uh, talking to the mechanic that was putting the seat. I said, like, even if we don't need to put a seat, I don't care. Don't go and tell Peter that I cannot fit the car. I don't care. And I squeezed into the car, and I showed up in Silverstone the first time in August. I think it was August 12, 1994. And had a Mugen V10 behind. It was can you just imagine? It was a dream coming through, and I felt that that would have been a great opportunity for me. Everything was lined up to join Lotus the year after. Unfortunately, Lotus folded up,
Hmm.
and so nothing happened on that side. And but Peter Collins, that was the team owner of Lotus back then. Uh, then he managed me, and he helped me to sign a contract with Arrows Grand Prix. And through those years, I built relationships that are still very valuable. Like I know we were on the car on that Lotus was Tommy Hilfiger, that back then was owned by Lawrence Stroll,
Uh-huh.
current Aston Martin boss. I got to know Lawrence. I kept a great relationship. I seen Lance almost being born. So things happen for a lot of reasons. Good
Reasons.
things happen for a good reason. So, as I said, maybe I didn't achieve, maybe it was a little bit of a disappointment by Formula One time because the quality of people that I had around, and I was very mature as well. Ayrton was gone. My family had no racing background. We were kind of lost a little bit. And, don't just blame me around the people. I just looked at me first,
Mm.
and it was an experience. Um, I learned a lot. I'm proud to say that I went all the way to racing Formula One. I have 9 GP. I'm a little pissed at the fact that in my own Grand Prix, I was in the point until one lap to go, and Jules Bouillon passed me on the last lap because we never changed tires. I was out there with the same tire from lap one.
Mm.
That still burns, because they were only giving a waypoint to the top six, so I finished seventh. And but it's okay. I learned a lot, and it made me be a better person, and that opened the door to come to US and create a new life, a new career.
Can I just finish this with a little bit of context for the listeners? I mean, you put an unbelievable business package together for the Drive with Footwork. I think you put all of your money that you had at the time into it. You feel on reflection that it wasn't perhaps the best timing for you, and Ayrton had said to you about timing being everything, and whatever. And their objectives as a business, if you like, perhaps didn't align with yours and what you were doing at the time. But I love how, with the benefit of time, Max, you look back on that now as something that taught you a lot, for as heartbreaking as that must have been. And I think you basically, did you not retire at the, you called time, I think, at the end of that, didn't you? Ayrton had not long been gone. That experience had not gone the way you wanted it to. And I think you basically stopped, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. You're 100% right. You put things in a great context, because I was alone. I spent every penny I had, basically, through all the saving I had. My dad helped me. I remember going to see Mr. Minardi, and after the meeting, I drove back and talked to Dad, and Dad said, yeah, I told him, hey, Dad, but the best case scenario, we need to find a way to give them, to find a whatever, $1 million sponsorship or something like that. And for what? We're going to be last. And I said, hey, listen, we tried, we did everything we could. Ayrton is not here anymore. That's it. Finished. Let's stop. And it was 1995. And a few days before Christmas, I got a phone call from Mr. Mario Vecchi, that was very close friend with Piero Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
And he was my advisor. Mario used to be the team manager of Lamborghini in F1, Scuderia Italia, and he was like a second father for me. And Mario told me, listen, I talked to Piero. They created this sports car. They have a Ferrari 333 SP. There is maybe an opportunity for you to drive it at Daytona. And I went, okay. What do I need to do? I say, how much money will it cost? I say, no, you can just drive it. And I went, all right. So I packed my stuff. First week of January, I showed up at Daytona by myself. I think I showed up a week before everything. I was 1 week too early. Nobody was there, and I basically put my butt in that car. And I think, to put things in context, that I think people need to understand, sports car back then was a retirement plan. Like, the youngest guy that was driving the car was Michele Alboreto. That was, I was 25, 26, and Michele was 40 something.
40. Yeah.
Yeah. And so sports car was something that people did after achieving tremendous things in their life. There was nobody 24 driving sports car. No, I don't think nobody. And, but the love for the sport, I went all the way there, and I had this opportunity to drive the Ferrari 333 SP, and that changed my life.
It was was a defining moment, wasn't it? In some ways, you're not defined by that moment, but it helped, perhaps launch you to the American audience. It typified who you were as a racer. People can look back on that for memory, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, right? There's an epic fight back from you, a battle with Wayne Taylor, and we saw kind of Mad Max, didn't we?
Yeah, listen, to summarize it is like this. They didn't want to have me sitting in the car because they were concerned that I was going to break it.
Okay.
Because in sports car, the team owner was so concerned because you had to drive it at a pace. If you drove the car too hard, it's not like nowadays that every endurance racing is a bunch of super fast stint one after another. You had to know how to nurture the car and everything, and they said, no, this kid comes from Formula One. He's going to sit in the car. He's going to disintegrate my car. So they made me drive the minimum necessary.
Uh-huh.
And then when Bob Volek had basically collected another car in the bus stop, we went down 4 laps, and they went, all right, we're screwed. Put him in the car. And was about 3 hours to go, I believe, 4 hours to go. And I remember vividly, I went, Max, this is your shot. Show them who you are. And I asked them if I could push, and they told me yes. We made up 2 laps to Wayne Taylor. We finished 37 seconds behind the leader. That back then was the closest ever finish in the history of Daytona 24 Hour. And coming out of the car, on the phone with Montezemolo, and I get an interview from ESPN, Bob Varsha. He was like, hey, Max Papis. And I went, sir, I told him, sir, my name is Max Papis, Papis. And maybe people thought I was arrogant. I don't know. But I wanted so bad not just to be a number,
Mm-hmm.
that I would have done anything. And then I won races with a Ferrari, and that opened door to my entire career in America. And I grabbed the opportunity with 2 hands, because I knew that I just had a feeling when I came to US, people were really looking for the talent. They were looking for the personality. They were praising the fact that maybe I was a little more. I was a genuine person.
We saw your character. We saw your personality,
Yeah.
didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt that was a perfect combination. I felt that being myself was actually a positive, while sometimes in Europe I got criticized because you wanted to have the picture perfect person of what is a race car driver.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'm a little bit outside that parameter. And it allowed my career to become what it is and make a living, being able to have a lot of satisfaction. And it was maybe the only one time in my life that I didn't plan for something, but it actually happened by itself. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing. I mean, it didn't happen by osmosis, though, Max, because what you brought to the table in that moment opened a whole new door for you, a whole new chapter. And then even in recent weeks before we recorded this podcast, you've been at Daytona. You keep, you had a wonderful connection with that place, and even and a bit of sports car racing. Can I come to Champ Car though? Where was the first time you drove one of those things? How did that opportunity come about?
I mean, that opportunity came from a very tragic moment. Mm-hmm. That I wasn't aware of it, but so Jeff Krosnoff used to drive for Toyota at PPI.
Yep.
He had a tremendous accident in Toronto, passed, and I was doing my sports car career. I was driving for Ferrari. And I remember on the way back, I don't know if you raced Lime Rock or whatever. I flew back to Italy, mm-hmm. and the phone rings, and it's this gentleman called Gordon Koppock, that is a legend. First time he called and he said, I'm Gordon Koppock, and I put the phone down. Then
this is a joke.
Yeah, I thought it was a friend of mine pranking me. Then he called me again, and I remember saying, Luca, just stop with this BS, dude. Stop. And he went, no, Gordon, very British. No, Max, it's actually Gordon Koppock. I went, Gordon Koppock? Yeah, I'm the team principal of PPI in IndyCar. Then I remember I stopped the car. I was on the highway. I stopped and I went, all right. I went, and they said, Max, the long story short was they invited me to Mid Ohio. The reason why they invited me, it was because it was between me and Eddie Lawson
Hmm.
that we used to drive in IndyCar, and and actually me, Eddie Lawson, and Marco Picella. Uh, Marco Picella was a very good friend of Fred of Krasnov,
Hmm.
but Marco somehow, I don't know why, he didn't, or he couldn't do it, couldn't come, he didn't show interest.
Hmm.
And and I remember the old guys at PPI telling me that I was maybe the only one of the few driver that didn't call them after Jeff passed in order to try to get the
The
ride.
job. Wow.
And
Mm.
and I went, okay, yes, I don't know. I didn't even I didn't. That's not my character. I would have not
Mm.
done it. And
Mm.
I showed up in Mid Ohio. They test me. I qualified fastest Toyota driver. That was Toyota was the beginning of that was actually the first ever experience for Toyota in motorsport after sports car racing
Hmm.
with Dan Gurney. And I remember they locked me away. They flew me to Los Angeles until uh, I found all these things later on. But basically, Penske. Uh, they had Emerson Fittipaldi that had a crash. They were looking for a driver. They had Jan Magnussen. He showed up in Mid Ohio as well. He didn't perform as well. So PPI, they locked me away. Back then, cell phone were not a real option.
Uh-huh.
So they did that until I signed a contract for 3.5 years. And I remember calling my dad and say, Dad, you know, these people are these people are actually gonna pay me a salary, and they're gonna pay me this for this year, that for the year. And Dad, I remember saying, Max, pretend that it's not enough. And I went, so I went in there and said, yeah, it's a good offer. I appreciate, I was expecting a little bit more. And I remember they came up with a bonus or something. But my life changed in that moment. My life changed, and I joined the Toyota family. I drove in Champ Car. I drove for Toyota for a few years. Then
Amazing.
Bobby Rahal retired.
Yeah.
Uh, I had a conversation with Bobby during an appearance, and I asked him if he had found someone to replace him. He told me no. Came and visited me. Uh, Signed a contract with Rahal. Had the opportunity to join a super competitive team. Won a lot of races. Really cemented the fact that in my 113 in IndyCar start, 3 race win, 9 podium. I don't know how many top 10 we had, but a lot. So
Mm.
I took the opportunity to do everything I could with the ride that I had, and fortunately back then, then Champ Car and IRL came to a halt. So there was a split between the two series, and uh, there was no opportunity for me to go further in open wheel, so I went to another part of my career.
Career. Just quickly, I mean, this underscores your ability to look after relationships, right? Because from memory, the Miller car, Cosworth Power, you'd had a great, and you keep a great relationship with Toyota despite all that. That thing like when it was wound up, was that thing like 1,000 horsepower? And what was that thing like to drive? Mega.
I would say the dream car.
Mm.
Champ Car was a dream car. Uh, Fastest car, driver could make a big difference, manual gearbox, no power steering, 1,000 horsepower. Um, I believe that the lap in Elkhart Lake is still, Champ Car still has the lap record of that track after whatever 20 years, whatever it is. It was amazing, and it was talent could emerge, and it
Mm.
was just an amazing opportunity. So, absolutely, to me, that was the ultimate real race car driver car, and it made there was a reason why Nigel Mansell went over and racing Champ Car. They were amazing talent. You're 100% right.
Great period for you. You formed some wonderful friendships too. They affectionately called it the Brat Pack. I mean, Dario Franchitti, who is godfather to one of your children, Tony Kanaan, the late Greg Moore, who is much missed. Why did you guys kind of click? And did that come about because of natural young racer rivalry almost? Like you're all trying to climb the ladder at the same point, and that you end up respecting that in the same moment. Is that how that all kind of came about?
I like to think that we knew that those cars were very dangerous. Mm-hmm. We knew that the risks that we took were immense, and there was that inner respect with each other that created a special bond amongst us. Between Greg, me, Dario, Tony. And we were really able to create a true friendship outside the racetrack that totally disappeared when you walked on the track because it was tough, very tough, very, very tough. But that did not prevent us from being, from really, being true friend all the way up to today. And I really believe of the fact that we share common goals, we respected each other, but the sport allowed us to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And they didn't look at that as a lack of professionality, but they looked at the fact that, look at this, there is a group of people that, a bit like Lando Norris and Max Verstappen nowadays. Mm-hmm. In a way, they I'm sure they battle on the track tremendously, but then they do iRacing together, they go on vacation together, they do certain things, So hopefully this shows to the young generation that you can be a tremendous competitor on track, but off track you can compensate that with being an open-hearted person.
In closing the Champ Car part of your career here, can we reflect on the Gold Coast? I have very vivid memories of that race. I was very fortunate for the first time to chat with Mario Andretti on the pit wall there. It was this iconic race for so long in the offering of big events in Australia. What was that like? And am I right in saying that is perhaps where you met your wife, Tatiana Fittipaldi? Is that right? Did you meet her there?
Yeah, Australia was the place that we were all looking forward to go. It was the event, the organizer, crusher, everyone. They were just amazing.
Yeah.
Great
track too.
The racetrack was insane. One of the best layout possible. You really felt like a king when you were coming to the Gold Coast, because I don't know, hundreds of thousands of spectators. It was, you felt that you were a king, when you were there. Everything wherever you went, a lot of great welcoming, and the welcoming spirit of the Australian linked with an amazing racetrack, a tremendous event supported by the government and supported by all the local people. It made a place that everyone wanted to go, wanted to win at. And I was fortunate enough to finish on the podium and have great races, and then create amazing friendship that they still last nowadays. And again, the memory that I have of that place is, they're undeletable. They are straight in my brain, and I'm looking forward. I went back a couple of times, and I'm looking forward to go back other times for different reasons, because it's when you combine great memories with amazing racing, great people, fantastic sceneries, it's what do you want more than that?
Exactly. I want to come to MPI and NASCAR very briefly, but to wrap up talking about Gold Coast there, that naturally leads us to supercars. Um, how hard did you try to get a ride there? Max Wilson, who's been on the pod before, has done some seasons in supercars and so on. Was that something, and how far did you get with that?
So I always admired the guys in supercar. Every time we raced there with a champ car, I think they were racing with us.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching Russell Ingall, racing, going to the paddock, watching, talking. And so one of my aspirations was always trying to join the supercar field. I tried to do that maybe a little bit too late when I was still driving sports car. But I'm still proud that I did the last Gold Coast race, the Invitational race.
Yep.
And my admiration for the supercar is the fact that they were amazing racers, very specialized, and the country really loved what they were doing. I showed up a couple of times. I went to Bathurst with James Courtney. I got a couple of tests lined up. But again, everything happened for a reason. And things didn't line up exactly in the right way. But I'm fortunate that I had the experience. I drove the car a couple of times, and I tell you, my friend Paul Morris warned me of how difficult those cars were.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt such an idiot.
Really?
They were so difficult. Like driving the car around, and you had to be so specialized. I still remember after the Gold Coast race going to Melbourne, Phillip Island, and jump in the car with James Courtney and Garth Tander when they did two-seater ride.
Uh-huh.
And being in the car with them, I went, I got it. I see how they do it. Because basically with the spool on the back, they were driving in really straight in the corner, Ving the corner, coming out. And it was basically the opposite of what I did. When I drove in the car, because in stock car, you turn a little bit early, the car, they don't turn, you need to anticipate the turning in. And let me tell you, it was a very humbling experience. I'm proud I did it. I'm not very proud of the results, but, it's something you learn.
Very cool thing on your CV. Owen Kelly is a friend and a friend of the podcast. You've been spending a bit of time with him recently around karting and so on. He reminded me about your NASCAR chapter. I don't know whether this statistic has been beaten, but I think you have or held the most wins or the most sort of starts of any European driver. Sorry, thank you for correcting me. And you came along at a time where Marcus Ambrose was coming through and NASCAR was sort of pushing for diversity. We got to see that personality you were talking about before. It was good timing. I know they're a very different race car, Max, but what was that chapter like for you?
You said it right. I have under my belt 145 NASCAR starts between Cup, Xfinity, and Truck.
Yep.
Most of them not with super competitive equipment, some of them with great equipment. And what I took out of that opportunity and the lesson was the fact that these NASCAR boys are amazing talent. They are capable of improvising with precision. Unfortunately, how I ended up in NASCAR was not the right path because I left Corvette racing. I signed a contract to drive the Xfinity, for a couple of years in order to learn. But unfortunately, when I joined the Xfinity, there was a contract clause where the car was sponsored by Geico, the
Hmm.
insurance.
Hmm.
And actually, it was not called Xfinity, it was called Nationwide.
Hmm.
There was another insurance. Therefore, as
You got competing
when they
sponsors. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah, and they the guy the 2 year of contract that I had with Geico, where I was supposed to race in Xfinity, they transformed themselves in a half season of Cup car, uh, 2 half season, and that was it would be exactly like showing up in Formula One with Formula Four experience.
Okay.
Similar
Okay.
level. Very,
Okay.
very difficult. Very
Mm.
difficult car, super complicated, no data, no nothing I could see. So it was a really big challenge, but I was still able to run very well on road courses, allow myself, to show my talent there, being able to prove that I belong to the sport, at least on the road course side. And that opened tremendous relationship all the way to arrive I almost won a race in Montreal in Xfinity. Those few times when I had the chance to drive a very competitive car,
Mhm.
uh, and I built a tremendous relationship. I learned a lot about myself. I learned all about the cars, and that allowed me to transfer this relationship to be the performance advisor of Austin Dillon and Ty Dillon
Ty
when I was
Dillon, yeah.
racing
Yeah.
in Xfinity.
Hmm.
And I went after the situation changed in racing where I was not driving really full time. I was able to guide this young fella that his name is William Byron. I got to know
Nice.
William when he was 17,
Hmm.
and I've been his advisor and his mentor all the way until this year.
Mm.
Guiding him through all his successes and again, no, what NASCAR did, what all my career did, gave me the opportunity to learn a lot about myself. I
Hmm.
might have maybe not achieved every single goal that I wanted, but I achieved a lot coming
Mm.
from a 800 people village
Mm.
and starting from nowhere. And but I've been able to transfer a lot of my knowledge to a lot of great people,
Yeah.
including William Byron and a bit of to close the circle a little bit, I believe what Ayrton was doing with me when I was a kid.
You're paying. You're
Unfortunately,
paying. You're paying that forward now. Is that what you're doing here?
yeah,
Yeah.
he passed away when I'm sure it would have been he would have loved to give me a really good guidance back then, when I was about to be in F1. And but in a way that circle is closed, and I can give back to the sport, to the people that deserve, the best of myself, and mm, working with great guys like Hendrick Motorsport, testing
Yeah.
their car, guiding William Byron, being the steward of IndyCar. So doing a lot of things, and as Owen told you, being a very mediocre mechanic at the go-kart track with my son.
I don't. I doubt
Uh,
you are mediocre. I doubt you're mediocre.
yeah,
People can go and have a look for some of that NASCAR stuff on YouTube. They'll remember fondly, for example, when you subbed for Tony Stewart, who was injured from a sprint car crash when you were at Watkins Glen. We got to see your emotion when he got out of the truck at times and so on. I want to come to now MPI. You're wearing the shirt. You're at HQ there in Charlotte, in North Carolina. What you have built here is world class, Max. Right. So, can you tell people what was the genesis moment for this? Where did this come from? The idea to pursue this, and then give us a sense of what you've created and where you're going with it.
yeah. Thank you for bringing this up. As much proud as I am of my racing and successes, I tell that I had another life. I had
Mm.
a life as a competitor on a race car, and now I have a life as a competitor in business.
Yes.
Uh, how it happened? It happened by chance. It was not planned. I was driving and testing for in NASCAR, testing the new generation car. I had an accident in Kentucky. where I got hurt. I broke my wrist. Uh, it was difficult to understand why I got hurt because the impact was not really bad, but putting some thought on that, we realized that back then, Stocker, they were using a very antiquated style steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
I was testing, I was friend with, Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Gordon, Dale Jr., people that I was testing for, and that was part of the sport. And it came to mind to say, let's make the product better. Let's create a safer steering wheel. I worked with NASCAR. I went back to Italy, worked with people that I knew in the sport. And we created I would say, we reinvented the wheel. We created a steering wheel, and we put technology into a very simple product where the wheel deformed with about 400 pounds of load. That is 200 kilos.
Mm-hmm.
That is the weight of your arm in a 5G impact. We came up with a lot of testing. I did this testing with Terry Trammell, the doctor of IndyCar, getting his knowledge, getting his help. The test with NASCAR, and we basically built a safer product, for 4 or 5 drivers in NASCAR. After 13 years, now we sell over 15,000 steering wheel a year.
Amazing.
We are the motorsport market leader. We have 200 different products. We took this from a simple servicing the sport to a business, and it proved that when you do something good for your sport, when you plant a good seed, good things come back. And obviously everything was organic. We helped NASCAR, we helped the driver to be safer. Then after a few years, 90% of the garage has our steering wheel.
Excellent.
Then we moved into dirt racing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I heard about the opportunity of supercar,
Cars,
5-6 years ago, maybe more. Actually, 7 years ago, I was talking to JC. They said, "Yeah, Max, they're gonna go to a new car. There might be an interest." And what I did, exactly like I did in racing, I got on the phone. I talked to the people in charge of supercar. I asked them, "Can we bid for it? Can we create a better product?" They gave me the opportunity. Actually, yeah, here you go. We created the controlled steering wheel that is in the supercar, and we created this unit with all the knowledge that we have, all the love that we have for the sport. We try to place it on the market in a way that it was not hurting the pocket of the teams,
mm-hmm.
And mainly in a way. I did this to create a marketing tool to be able to eventually one day enter in Australia with other product, saying that if you can service the best of the best in supercar, why can't you create other product? Why can't you be the best in other side? And the long story short is exactly the example of my life. Nothing is too small, nothing is too big. We created a real business. Now branching it out in Australia, with the supercar, with Cool Drive, with distribution here and there, and doing it in a very organic way. Servicing the sport, make the product better, and pretty much like what I learned from other people, where you try to excel in what you do. You create a great product, and then you find a way, to take your idea and provide other services to areas like we are in the marine industry, we are in the UTV industry, things that has nothing to do with competition.
But you can apply it. But you can apply it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I apply the same value that helped me to achieve my dreams and my goals in racing, and it's a huge pride for me to be able to go from, hey, this is Max Papis, and this is Oh, MPI. Yeah, Max Papis is the owner of MPI. To MPI being a business and a brand that
Brand.
stand on its own.
Mm,
On its
mm,
own. Now
mm.
sometimes they say, "Oh, look at this great MPI steering wheel," and then people will say, "Do you know who's the guy that created a business? Max Papis." Wow, it's not the opposite. In the beginning, it was Max Papis that made a steering wheel that was called MPI, and that prides me a lot.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
prides me tremendously. And as I said, we took a dream that could and created a business, and we are winning here, and we want to win more as well.
you should be immensely proud, Max. And I love the fact that you've taken a moment there to shine a light on the Australian portion of this business, because I feel at times like we don't fully appreciate that. I mean, you're doing it is such a great product in supercars, and I love the fact that you're in the Aussie market. I think that's brilliant. Before we wrap this up, you do have in
But
the
let me
show.
tell you something.
Go
I
go.
want to tell you something that is exactly the philosophy that I used over in US. Yes,
Uh-huh.
we are the supercar, the king
Yep.
of the king, the
Uh-huh.
top of the top. But as well, what we did, we created an agreement with the Excel series
Fantastic.
and with the Trans Am cars.
Fantastic.
Why? Because
Yep.
I was one of them.
Mm,
I was one of the guys that started down there in the
mm,
Excel series. So
mm.
why can't you have the same safety and the ability to provide a great product no
At,
matter where you are?
at that
And
level.
uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and that kind of like I did that. It's not a publicity stunt, but it's more
Mm.
just to kind of show you a little bit how we think. Yeah, yes, it's awesome to work with the best of the best, but as well, there are a lot of little guys that need to be serviced, and there is a reason why they race. There is a lot of love, and we don't forget about that.
That passion that you have is so infectious, Max. You have in the showroom a kind of wall of champions, don't you, with some of the success that MPI has had? Just give us a snapshot of that.
What we did, with MPI, we tried to create a legacy, and I basically collected all this big steering wheel. Every champion, every guy that won something for us, we collected their steering wheel, we collected their car, and I mean, I can turn, the camera here and just give you a little shot, a couple of things.
Yeah,
If you look at this,
yeah.
you know, this is
43.
the wheel. Yeah, and actually, the reason why uh, the orange stripe, that is a trademark for MPI, it come from Richard Petty. Because I remember I asked, if you see most of the steering wheel, they have a yellow stripe.
Yes.
So I was involved in NASCAR, and I asked Richard. I wanted to go to the King, and I had told him, "What do you remember about your wheel? Something that I can use?" And he told me that after he crashed in Daytona, he found himself in the infield. He couldn't get the steering wheel straight, and he went back home and he put a piece of electric tape in the middle, and it was an orange tape. I asked Richard if I could use that, and now this has become a big trademark for our
Awesome.
business. So every time you see the
Awesome.
orange marker, is MPI and it's Richard Petty.
I love
I
that.
mean, can you believe that?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so we have a lot of memories. The Daytona 500 trophy from William Byron from last year, our IndyCar steering wheel,
Awesome.
and we have in the other side a few other things. I will take you guys around for a second, then I go back to my place. So here, all the steering wheel, or most of the steering wheel of our champions. Uh, you can see some uh, pretty amazing custom made product. Very proud of to have serviced and won. I think MPI now has won 14 NASCAR championship or something like that. And can you believe?
So
You know,
cool.
it's a dream coming through, and I hope that this gives motivations to other to achieve their goal and their dream, because nothing is too small, nothing is too big.
I have really enjoyed this chat, Max, and not just for the cars you've driven and what you have achieved in that domain. It is what you are bringing from that to this venture now. Can we finish with, you talked a bit of karting there before, is there going to be another generation Papis racer. You can tell us about that. And I'd love you to finish with a little message for the younger racers who are listening here. And I've heard you speak of this in other places, right, where you've said almost jokingly, McDonald's was a plan B. So that was a big driver for you to make sure that you achieved plan A, and that racing is just one part of life. Now what you're doing with MPI is a reflection of that statement, isn't it?
Yeah, like let's say like this. The reason why we are talking is Owen Kelly.
Yes.
We were both together in Daytona for the karting race, where I was actually a little bit better mechanic than Owen. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Owen. I love you. But his son went for the first time on the podium in US
Hudson
in a karting race.
Yeah.
I was Hudson. I love him. And I gave him a pair of gloves. He was super happy. A pair of MPI gloves. At the same time, my son, Matteo Papis, he raced in the KA 100. He had, basically he has about 30% win ratios. He just won a couple of races in the Legends car on the road course. Excellent. And he's showing that he deserved. So might be a future for another person of my family.
Yeah.
And I will repeat what you just said. What I tell Matteo, what I tell Marco, my 18 years old, and I tell that to every single father and kid that come over and ask me, what do I need to do? In my career, Plan B was working at McDonald's. I didn't want. I had no Plan B. I had Plan A.
Yeah.
Was I the best of the best? No. Were they people better than me? Yes. Did I outwork the majority of these people that they had a little bit more talent than me? Yes. Did I get? Did I compete against guys that they had similar drive to me with 3% more talent? Yes. They became multiple time world champion. But I was there. I was not far. I worked very hard. I'm extremely proud of my achievement. But the main things, I never left any stone unturned. I never accepted mediocrity. I woke up earlier than what was necessary. I took the God gift that I had, and I made the best of what I could with it. I have no regret. I have zero regret. Zero regret of everything I've done. And I tell all the kids out there watching, and if I've done something like this, anyone can do even better. You just need to apply yourself and really do it, not say that you want to do it, but do it for real. Am I a little sad that my family is 10 hours by plane from me? Of course, they're in Italy. That my Italian, but my brother, my sister, my mom, they're over there? Yeah, of course. Am I proud that I'm here in US and I created this great legacy? Of course. My dad would have been extremely proud of what I've done. So don't let anyone tell you, who you are. Inside who you are. And no matter at what level, go out there and give everything you have. And usually good things happen when you do that.
Well done. We are keeping you from your own family, so we'll wrap it there. Thank you so much for sharing some brilliant stories, Max. I love what you're doing with MPI. I can't wait to see what is next for that. It is the same energy, drive, passion that you brought to the table in racing that you are now succeeding with in business. We'll put the link for MPI's site in our ep description, and for Australian listeners, you can find out more at Cool Drive. Obviously, we wish you continued success, and thank you so much for coming on today. This has been a fabulous chat.
Greg, you are a hero of mine. I follow you with a tremendous passion because you're a rock star on the track and off the track. It's an honor to be even recognized and have a conversation with you guys. So my goal is being able to send love to everyone out there and show that dream can come true if you put your effort in it. So I'm looking forward. I want to send my best to all the people down in Australia, New Zealand, and looking forward to come down and see you guys. Who knows? Maybe one of the next supercar races.